it is indeed true. This 21-year-old boy dropped out at the university and built a $1 million business as a dropout chaiwala. Come, let's see his journey. Hey there, I am Vishani Nigam and you have tuned into my first step ever podcast. I realized life's too short to postpone your dreams and too long to live someone else's. So after failing 1,000 times, I'm finally on a journey to fulfill my dreams of impacting people's life through what I do the best, entertain and educate through podcasting, digital content creation and thought leadership. On this podcast, I uncover stories that help you see why you must do what you want in life, build conviction to follow them, and how to build systems to sustain them. And if you are an entrepreneur or a brand seeking exactly the same, then I'm up for a chat on my Instagram handle, which is at myfirststepever_IN. But for now, if you want to achieve your goals and build never failing systems, then what are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome on my first step ever. It is so exciting that on the journey where we are soon reaching 100 episodes, that I am blessed and this show is blessed that we are really able to, invite some amazing guest speakers who are of your age, who are maybe much more younger than you, and they have found a balance of what they want to do in life. Probably they have gone through their own trials and tribulations, and they are here to share their journey with you in the most candid way that they can. And today I have a rising star from Australia, and he is originally from India, and he is making some good noise in Melbourne with his chai, and he has an amazing chain of chai. It's called Dropout Chaiwala. So hi Sanjith, welcome on my first step ever.
Hi, Shani. Thank you. Thank you so much for the warm welcome.
I'm extremely excited to dig into this conversation, given that you're just 21 years old. You have really amassed so much of experience and you have gained so much, I think I think I'm just lost of word because I have been reading a lot about you and the way that you have followed your journey during COVID and post COVID, and you've made some things work which in the most challenging times. So we will get to your amazing story that how did you build a 1 million plus business in just I think just
Yeah,
1 year
yeah, just less than
or
1 month for me.
just awesome.
Yeah.
That is great. So this is a story worth listening to. And before we get there, I'd like to introduce you to my listeners today. So Sanjith Kondahouse is a 21-year-old international student bringing chai, a traditional beverage from his home country. We share the same home country, so I'm very proud to say that, to Melbourne. And he came here to study his bachelor's at University of Melbourne. And sorry, it's not University of Melbourne,
Sorry,
right?
no, it's La Trobe University.
Okay, I'm from University of Melbourne, so whenever I see university, I just go, "Oh, must be University of Melbourne."
No.
That was my bad. But that's interesting to know that you're from Beacon University. But what is more
Oh,
interesting
sorry,
over
I'm
here?
from La Trobe University.
Oh, Latrobe.
Yeah.
Well, that is something important that we will be talking about. And my apologies.
No, it's okay.
But we know that you have made a business and you have become a $1 million enterprise with 3 stores in Melbourne less than a year. Well, this is really amazing, and I think something that no one has ever done before from India, I would say. I mean, people have made businesses, they have scored 1 million then in less than a year, but I think you're the first amongst yourselves coming from India and making the business in chai, the Indian beverage over here where people love coffee. So it's very interesting, a case study for people to know how did you break into the market.
Yeah.
And going forward, APAC Business Insider Awards recognized you as Melbourne's best authentic chai within a year. So this is awesome. And I think you are backed by 30-person team who helps you build that culture in Melbourne in Australia. So Sanjit, everything sounds so exciting. and so inspiring. But I think all stories start from some sort of incidences or situations or realizations. So just let's just dig into that very moment when you thought of quitting your university. So can you just take us to that moment, probably when you were thinking that why did you want to quit Latrobe University when you came all the way to a new country to do your studies over here?
Uh, Probably exactly a year ago, at this time, that's September, November. I finished my fourth semester of my university doing my bachelor's. And I think at the time when I was finishing the fourth semester, that's when I realized uh, getting into real business will also teach me a lot of business than what I'm learning from business studies right now. And I was been working full time at that time because we had no limitations on work, especially 40 hours. And I have been thinking from a long time that I want to do something of my own. So coming out of the COVID period and businesses slowly opening up in Melbourne, and especially when there's a lot of opportunity where many high-priced leased shops or something are available in the market. I think that was the right time where I could take this little courage step and get into the business and see whether that would work out. And yeah, that's how it started. It started in last year, September. And then by November, I resigned all my jobs. By December 23rd was our first day of the shop.
Great. That sounds like a really well thought journey. And I would like to dig a bit deeper over here, because for a lot of people who are getting into business, who want to do something of their own and they have no understanding of how to go forward, I believe when you had that thought that you want to do something of your own, how did you start building those blocks before you quit your university? Because I think it takes a lot of calculative risk, and to understand that. Oh, how did you come up with the idea of being a chai, like introducing chai in Melbourne, being a dropout chaiwala? How did that idea come into your head?
Uh, Bringing chai to Australia, the thought comes from where my mum is always a chai lover, and she lived with me here for a year. And unfortunately, she couldn't find any chai place whenever we both want to go have chai once in a while. And that's where the thought came from. Why not Melbourne have a chai place? And I believe every chai lover always thought about this idea. They want to open a chai place because the chai walas are quite famous back in our home, and that's where it draws from. But the calculated blocks, I would say, is having enough funds, saving up those many funds, whether I can open this business up, and then me taking a decision whether I want to continue my degree with the funds I had, or me coming out of the university and then do the business in the Melbourne. So this was the one of the calculated thing, which I would say the starting block was. And on top of it, me being an international student, whether this is really possible that I can do a business here. So joining all those dots together and figuring out, yes, I can do a business. That was the initial thing.
Interesting. So you thought through the entire process of how the funding would come. Would this pay me off in the long run? Because also you're an international student, and I've also been an international student, so I understand that where a lot of restrictions would come from in terms of if you would like to see your future over here, how would that blend into. So from here, I like to ask you very basic and simple questions, and I think a lot of people would have that in their mind right now. Probably you don't see it that way because it might come very naturally to you. You might think, oh, that's very obvious. Why would people want to know that? But I think for a lot of us, that might not be obvious, which is a very basic step. The day you thought, okay, that's the gap that I found in the market, and I want to address that. You thought about the business model, you thought about the funding. How did you really start going about this? Like, how did you find your team? Did you think of having a store from the very get go, or where did you make the small start? Is what I'm really interested to know.
The small start would be the first thing is yes, I wanted to open a cafe. Number two, that is especially with chai. And three, I always believed I can't do things by myself, and I always believed I need a team. Through you, every startup or every business which you do will have a really wonderful team who have a set vision of how they want to do or how they want to work out that business as. And that's how I reached to my co-founders. They're my seniors, especially from my university, where I met them through my clubs and societies. So that's Arun and Preetham. So Arun takes care of all the sales and marketing of the business, and Preetham takes care of the operations model of the business. So, and for very fortunate, these both are the first two franchisee owners of my business, as well as the other two branches were taken by them. So that's how I went across. I explained them this is the business I want to do, and we came together, made a business model. And I do have an investor in my business. He's Mr. Asrar. So he's been working in hospitality industry from past 12 years, where his experience comes with us to guide how to really work out on this business. And then we came up the business model, and we especially wanted to open in the busiest street of Melbourne, where everybody can notice that this place exists and that this beverage comes up as a hot beverage, an alternative for the coffee. So that's why we came up on the Elizabeth Street. Our first branch was, and we came up with this creative name, Dropout Chaiwala, because that's my real story of the business, where I dropped out from the university and I wanted to do a chai business. I wanted to be a man who sells chai. So we named it after Dropout Chaiwala because we also want to give out a story with the chai which we give out to our customer. So that's how this all started. And then we established our first store, and December 23rd was our first day of Dropout Chaiwala, and we'll be soon 1 year by next month now.
Congratulations on this amazing journey. Now, I have lived in Melbourne, and I can definitely say that it's no easy deal getting a store on Elizabeth Street. It is one of the busiest streets in Melbourne, and I can't imagine the kind of investment that you would have required for that. So that's an interesting part.
Yeah, so quite a little bit about that. COVID luckily helped me with this, I would say. Very fortunate coming out of COVID, and the shop which we were in leased out for the first time in last 40 years. So I was very fortunate to grab that opportunity and get that place where we are right now. And it takes a heavy investments because you have to pay heavy bonds and heavy upfront rental, because this street is known for the busy street to be and the customers there. So, but that was probably the courage which we had, trusting that this business will definitely work out, because the customers which walk through that street are also most of the niche customers of who wants to have chai every day. So we tapped into the right market and the right time and the right place, definitely, I would say. And it all together magically worked out.
I'm sure that you call it magic, but this has a very well thought through process behind it, which you've just explained to us. Looking at the gap in the market, looking at the right timing is even more important, and getting the right place is just the trio works really well, and I think you did your homework very well. So I want to kind of trace back a few steps, because there are two milestones, I would say, that you achieved before even your journey began. The first thing being that when you approached your co-founders and when you presented or pitched your idea, how did you get the courage to pitch that idea to your co-founders, them being your senior? Yeah, I mean, if you can take us through that entire scenario.
So, as I said, this journey has been really with a lot of ups and downs. And when I talk about co-founders, it was not just two of them. I did approach to a lot of people, and there are a few people who departed from the journey to believing this idea would not work. So, building the trust and believing within you from the team is also a tough task, I would say. And when I did approach them, these both people, especially Preetham and Arun, I believe I am very fortunate to have them as my friends or my seniors. They have the full trust that how this business can work. And every day, every single day, their thoughts were on working on the business, how we can make it better, how can we make this to reach out to more people, how easy can we make these operations so our customer service do not delay. Because I believe we would give you a child less than the time that coffee takes. So that's how fast we can give you the chais. And the basic model or operation model in our business is no human makes the chai. It is not handmade chais anymore. We worked out on the espresso, how like coffee machines got. We worked out on the chai machines, and we get the chai that way. So it takes less time than what coffee, and it's 100% caffeine free, and it definitely tastes better than what coffee tastes. So that's all we worked. So at least now I can boldly say that this business is really good because it tastes better than coffee it is. So
that's a big statement there. Being in Melbourne, that's a good challenging statement, but I think that is the kind of attitude that you must carry for your business, to believe in what you're doing, to take it forward. And you have proved it, your team has proved it, as you said. The other milestone that I was talking about was actually getting an investor on board who knew the ways of business, and who really helped you go forward, as you just mentioned. So if you can just shed some light on that experience of yours, that how did you find the investor that you were looking for? And
yeah,
yeah,
that's a really funny story because I did approach one of the investor who I thought would really come and invest into my business, and I explained them the business idea, and it turns out to be they turned me down, that this business might not work. And uh, and their business partner who was with them was listening to my business idea, and they came forward to invest into my business, and they thought this will definitely work, and that man became my investor, and now this business really worked out. So
lovely.
yeah, so it is little funny there. The person who I really trusted, who can invest into my business, could not, and their sources or first friends had really invested into this, and this business 1 year down the lane has made so much noise in the market and really achieve a lot of big things now.
This is a very great story, a reality where you can, say that when you really work towards something, there are many doors that open up for you,
Yeah,
even though that
definitely.
you did not know about that. And now that we talk about your journey and how you're telling us, that you looked at so many people, you pitched your idea at so many people, it did not work out with them. You believed in someone would take your, you know um, business forward, but it did not work out with that person. But whoever came on board believed in your idea, and now you have come thus far. So this is really incredible, and thank you, Sanjit, for being so patient and answering each and every question out there, because I think these are the small steps, little steps, that help our listeners understand that how they can move up in their journey, how they can pursue their goals. Also, because I feel that something very important that you have mentioned over here, that if you want to make a big impact in the world, you need a team.
Yeah,
You
that's definitely true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can definitely do things alone as well, but you will always multiply the effect when you have the right people on board and you have the right vision. It just multiplies, the vibe that you have, it multiplies. So Sanjit, there are all these interesting things that we've spoken about. Has Was there ever a time where you had any bit of a self doubt in yourself, maybe in not yourself but about the situation, when it started getting a bit out of hand? Did you ever face that situation until you were able to put this project in fruition? Did you ever come across that situation, and if yes, how did you overcome that part?
Yeah, every business would have this phase, is what I believe, because uh, initially we took off really well, and there would be a time where, since this was my first year of the business, I really don't know how does the market really plays with the numbers of how much revenue you make in the business. So times like holidays, times like February, March, or holiday periods and stuff like that, you obviously make low sales because there are less people in the market. So understanding those statistics, which will directly affect your revenue model of a business, was the first time where I felt I really had a challenge to come out of that thought that is the numbers are low just because the business idea, or is it low because the market was not really full at that time. So that was one of my biggest challenge ever, and coming out of that and then managing your team when it is falling apart is one of the biggest challenge you will always have as a founder, is what I would say, because you need to probably satisfy everyone who is on board with you and explain them, yes, this will work, you just need to have a little more patience and be consistent on what we are working. So those were few challenges and developing myself, because when I had a lot of things on my plate, I cannot focus on myself to improve as a person I am, where I will be pulled out from all the ends, and I have to be working on everything other than just working on myself. So taking out that time to focus on yourself, to improve yourself as a person, as a founder, as a leader, and every other skills which you really want to pursue your dreams. So that will be a definitely big challenge for you when you start a business.
That's great, great. Thank you so much for being so genuine about the entire situation, and explaining it in the most simplest of way for us to understand, and opening up to us, because I think one of the factors that you mentioned is the most challenging, which is managing people's expectations.
Yeah.
That is something that you really need to build yourself mentally, have that kind of strong growth mindset, and be able to take everyone along with you. And as you mentioned, only a great leader knows how to do that. So you really need to train yourself. So we see that you've not only been working on your business but yourself as well. So that's like a double shift that you're doing.
It's very true. Yeah.
So now that we've discussed so many of your interesting moments, the challenges, the struggles, so let's come to the fun part now. What has been the top most fun element or the fun situation that you had so far, that when you were there you were like, wow, did I really make it so big? So, I mean, something like that
Uh,
tells us.
in the recent times, I think I can share this. Uh, the morning I just got up around like 6:30 for doing my regular stuff, and I had my phone. I turn off my phone while I'm asleep, and I put it on the flight mode, and I turn it back when I'm up. So I turned it on my flight. I put the flight mode off, and I just turned on my Wi-Fi and mobile data of the phone and stuff. And I see there's huge notifications on my phone, and I am like, what did just happen? I really don't know what has happened. And it took me some time to figure out that I was published in NDTV. I was published in Economic Times of India. I was published in the Startup Journey of India, and all these big articles of Indian news media and stuff. It really it shook me actually that I have been published. It is more like I have become a star overnight, because yeah.
Very well deserved.
So that was really funny. And me and myself, not just me and my whole team, we did not really believe, oh, did this really happen for a second? And then we had to Google myself on the internet to find in what all articles we were published, because we really don't know in what articles we were published. So then we made a big list of all of them, and then we could sort that, okay, these are the articles we were published, and this is where we got the reach. And our Instagram followers on our business has also increased quite. It was a big spike on just one overnight. So
This
all
is
these were,
great.
yeah.
I'm
So
sure they have been loving your chai.
yeah, they have been. That's the one thing which we constantly work on, reviewing over how our customers feel about our chai, and we are very open for suggestions and criticism, because that's where we feel we learn stuff. And we've been constantly working on to improve our taste and services what we provide from all the three stores.
This is great. I feel so fortunate that we are having this conversation on my first step ever, and I am able to ask you questions that help us understand that how the journey began, how the struggles or the challenges that you had, and how the seed was actually, it was planted before it just took off, because that is where all the I think the most important part of the story lies. So thank you so much, Sanjit, for being on my first step ever, taking us through your journey. And at this point in time, I know that you are doing really well. And going forward, what sort of let's say what is that you're looking forward to with Dropout Chaiwala? Because I see some really amazing collaborations happening with different brands, and you kind of giving out the space for really interesting conversations that happening in Melbourne. So yeah, how are you seeing it ahead?
So right now we are just working. If we're talking about Dropout Chaiwala, we are working towards this brand being like friendly cafe for all the ones who love chai and use that space as their second home. where they always can come and have the chai and have the conversations and gossip. So that's where this chai comes back from our home. We have our gossips, chit chat with friends, and spend time over a cup of chai. So that's where we are looking this, and we want to really become a national brand in next couple of years. That's what we are working through it right now, and we are doing a lot of collaborations and venturing into different fields. We just started Dropout Designs. That's the love which we have towards our merchandise, especially when we released our first sets with our chai characteristic. We really got a huge response. And now we are addressing Dropout as a brand itself, that we want people to not just see a word dropout that you really dropped from university, but seeing Dropout as a brand. So we're working on Dropout Designs. We're venturing with different small startups so that we have a cross collaborations on marketing and stuff. So this is where we look at expanding ourselves.
This sounds really great, Sanjith. And as I said at the very beginning, for any person who's studying business or who's doing marketing, especially in Melbourne, in Australia, I think your story is a very good case study for any one of us. And I'm sure that very soon you'll be invited to all the universities in Melbourne and over Australia to, kind of go and explain your story, because it is definitely very interesting. And one of my very close friends who is in India right now loves chai. Like, she drinks chai 5 to 6 times a day. So I
Uh,
think whenever she's here, I would love to take her to Melbourne, and when I'm in Melbourne and we'll be at Dropout Chaiwala, I hope to see you soon there.
Definitely, you have to come to Melbourne and try our chai, and bring your all chai friends to our place and have that good cup of chai with us.
Thank you so much. It was really exciting to chat with you and understand your journey. I'm actually filled with so much excitement to see that you just started off with an idea, and how far that you have come, and there's still a long way for you to go. Love to see that you are leaving no stone unturned. All the opportunities that you're getting, they are just going forward with it. And yet you know what's important on the road, which is your people and also your customers. So thank you, Sanjit, for being on my first step ever. And before we take your leave, I always request my guest speakers to leave our listeners with a quote or a saying that they really resonate with.
Yeah, the quote I really resonate with is uh, if you have the courage of what you really want to achieve, it will definitely succeed. So you should just have that courage to do that. My first step ever is like, I have to have that courage to do it. So that would be the quote. And the favorite book which I read is most of the time is it's a book called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. So that book is one of my favorites of all time. And whenever I feel I really need to get motivated, or when I really need to uh, think differently on how business can work, on what I'm doing, is I go back to that book and start spending some time reading it. So that's where I get that little motivation and thinking out of the box from.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing those interesting quotes and that amazing book that you really love reading. And I am so thrilled and happy. And to everyone who's listening to us today, I think you probably know him by now. Or if today was the first time that you heard about Sanjit, you are really, really into and impressed with this story. And if you're in Melbourne or wherever you are in Australia, and if you're flying through Melbourne, do drop in at Drop Out with Chaiwala. So thank you so much, Sanjay. Thank you so much for being on my first step.
Hi, my friends. If you have reached thus far today, firstly, thank you so much. It really means that you have learned something out of today's episode and you have enjoyed. So why don't you share it with me and let me know that what is that you have learned and what would you like to listen more in the upcoming episodes. I love to build a relationship with my viewers and audiences and know what really is that helping them. So you can follow me on my Instagram handle, which is at myfirststepever_in, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for weekly video updates. And yes, if you like what I do over here, follow My First Step Ever on Google, Apple or Spotify, and please drop your rating to my show and comment. Well, this can be a way you can help me achieve my dreams to reach out to millions who need to hear this, as I help you in your journey in taking the first step ever. Until next time, Start believing in yourself. And most importantly, keep believing in yourself.